I now call the Iberia Parish Council meeting to order for April 13th, 2022. The current time now is 6:10. Will be led in prayer by Councilman Mathurin and pledged by Councilman Napier. Councilman Mathurin.
Well, we'll go ahead and recite the Lord's Prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread.
Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. To temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Amen.
Councilman Napier.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Mathurin. Councilman Napier. Moving on to roll call, Madam Clerk.
Tommy Pollard. Here. Michael Landry. Marcus Broussard. Here. Lloyd Brown. Here. Warren Goshesang.
Here.
Natalie Broussard. Here. Paul Landry.
Here.
James Trahan. Here. Scott Rossini.
Here.
Eugene Olivier.
Here.
Brian Napier.
Here.
Lady Fontenette Brown. Here. Marty Trahan.
Here.
Chad Mathurin.
Here.
We have 13 members in the quorum. Moving on to public comments, I need a motion to go into public comments. I have a motion by Councilman Pollard and second by Councilwoman Broussard. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hear no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to number one, Madam Clerk.
Comments from the general public on non-agenda items.
At this time, I don't believe we received any. Moving on to number two.
Comments from the general public on agenda items.
We did receive one from Michael Fox to speak, Michelle Fox to speak on summary number. Okay, permit. Mr. Fox, if you can step up to the mic, state your name and address for the record, sir.
5185.
For the record, 5185.
So those of you who don't know me, I was raised by Terry Fox, born and raised here, and just want to comment on this permit issue in the parish. I feel it's a tax, and it's not going to be processed correctly. I think it's just a way to collect money. And I know most of y'all aren't educated in this, but if you hire a state licensed contractor, you will have a good job. If you hire somebody that's working out the back of his truck, like the butcher guy on TV, I'm sure y'all seen that in the mornings, you're gonna get that, okay? And not everybody knows what they're doing. Takes a lot of effort and a lot of training to get there. So I think the homeowner or the business owner should be the operator of the permit, the only person in operation of the permit, because they own their property, not the parish, not the city, nobody but the owner of the property. And it's up to them to get their job done correctly. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Fox, for being here. Next, we have Mr. David Broussard to address agenda item 63, and he's in favor. Mr. Broussard, state your name and address for the record, sir. Welcome.
David Broussard, City Councilman, District 3. I want to come and thank this whole parish council. It's been a year now that we got at least a little vote coming on getting the land acquisitions for Iberia Weeks, Julia, French, whatever the locations are. Y'all gonna be looking at tonight. It's a step forward. Mr. Larry, I know it's been a big effort. I want to thank you personally for you and your staff. And I mean, it's a big step, this thing right here done. So it's been a long time coming. But the success for the installation of the safety equipment associated with the railroad crossings would have not been possible without the coordination team effort of the parish council and the city council leaders. Everyone benefits with the installation of the safety equipment associated with the railroad crossings. Citizens, employees, and visitors who travel through New Iberia, and those who conduct business at the New Iberia Parish Council Courthouse. Look, this has been a long effort. If it wasn't for a few of us or me, 18 years pushing this, we wouldn't have this safety going on. We have 5 up already. Evangeline, Deer, Bank, no arms and lights, but they're there now. It took an effort. And I brought them, not me, but we brought that money to Tiberry Parish. $4 or $5 million. It takes $200,000, if not more, on each location. The state has to pay. Now y'all understand why they close in Lee and they close Prairie. They're looking at closing Caroline. It's just too expensive to keep them all open. But I want to personally thank you, Larry, and the whole council here for pushing this forward, whatever y'all had to do with it. But thank you, sir, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. Moving on to another request for agenda item, consent agenda 63 by Mr. Perry Templeton. If you can step to the podium and state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name's Perry Templeton. I reside at 3911 Avenue Bonne Terre. And I'm here to discuss consent agenda summary 63 with you. As I understand it, this resolution has 3 properties that are being sold, that are parish properties that are being sold to the BNSF Railway. On page A2 of the resolution, there is a 40 by 42 foot section of your parking lot that is on the corner of Iberia Street here at the tracks. It's going to be sold to the railway, and they intend to put a signal house like this on the park where the property is now. So I'm thinking it would be more aesthetically appealing to locate it across the tracks on the unimproved Jotmo Funeral Home property rather than at the parking lot. However, most importantly, I'm just wanting you and encouraging you to consider removing this agenda item from the consent agenda so that you as council members can properly identify and discuss the properties you're authorizing the administration to sell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Templeton. Moving on, we have a request for agenda item 5184. Ms. Tracy Davenport is in favor. Ms. Davenport, if you can state your name and address for the record, welcome.
Hi, Tracy Davenport, 1430 Winfred Road, Rain, Louisiana. I'm with Louisiana Imagine No Kill, which is a shelter dog rescue, and we partner with the animal shelter here, Iberia Parish Animal Control. And I wanted to start this evening by thanking everyone here, the council members and Mr. Richard, for all of the work that you have done with us to improve things for the shelter and the animals in your community. First, by hiring Erica, the new shelter manager. She's done she was a great pick for that position. She's done a fantastic job, and I can't thank her enough for all the good work that she's done since about November. She has this amazing ability to remain calm and keep pushing through hard times and just to keep moving forward. It's a hard job, and some days I literally feel terrible for her as I watch the things coming into the shelter and the things that they have to see. I also want to thank y'all for the provision that you passed in December that takes the focus off of killing and places it on other options like rescue and adoption. Thank you very much for that. And last, we had the 10-page revision that was offered for publication on the 23rd of March. That is it's a very good start for your animal control ordinance. It's clear, it's concise, it does focus very well on the mission and essential functions of the shelter. So the last thing I wanted to address is just this last provision that we're talking about. It was numbered 517 in Council Members Broussard's initial proposal, and I think as of yesterday, it's now 513. And basically what that provision does is it provides definitions that are missing in the state law and the state cruelty statute that are not specifically defined. it's filling a gap there, and it would be like a finishing touch if you would add that last provision into your ordinance. It will be helpful to law enforcement when they go out and do cruelty investigations. It helps them in their own mind to how to define and determine whether something constitutes cruelty under the statute, but also for them to be able to explain to people why and why they're being cited or charged with something. And it's not just their own opinion and discretion and a subjective thing. I also think it will help your animal control people. I've been in rescue for 13 years now, and over the last year, I have to tell you, the number of cruelty, abuse, and neglect cases coming in, and the severity has increased astronomically. Animals are coming in deplorable condition, and we're seeing some unimaginable things. And I feel really bad for the shelter workers who have to be there and see that, deal with them, help them, take care of them, and all of that. And I think if you added this provision, it might cut down a little at least, on the cruelty that is out there and coming into the shelter. And finally, I think it would be a really positive thing for Iberia Parish. You have a really nice city here, and I see you guys are doing some really great things. I've been watching over the months at your meetings. You have all these community development things going on, all these projects to attract businesses and tourists and residents to your area. And I think this would be just one more piece of that little puzzle, you know, in cleaning up the streets and not having mangy dogs or sick dogs or injured dogs or aggressive dogs running around your streets. And so I think it would just go a long way for you as the legislators and leaders in the community to add that one last provision to your amendment. And it kind of puts it out there like, this is what we think is appropriate, and when the officers are doing their cruelty investigations, it will make their jobs easier. So I'm just going to ask you to vote in favor of it.
Thank you, Ms. Davenport. We appreciate you for being here. At this time, is there any other requests for public comments that we have not received yet? Yeah, I was going to get to that next. All right. At this time, anyone applying for boards and commissions? Mr. Joey Duran, Fire Protection District Number 1 Board. State your name and record, sir, if you don't mind.
How you guys doing? Joey Duran, live on Bayou Boulevard. Thank y'all for voting me the last time for the fire board. My term is up and it's time for renewal, so I would like it if you guys could possibly consider me for another 4-year term. I'd appreciate that.
Is there any questions for Mr. Duran at this time, members? Hearing none. Thank you for being here and serving your community, sir.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
At this time, Mr. Kevin Romero, also applying for Fire Protection District 1. Mr. Romero, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name's Kerry Romero. I live at 6017 Lowerville Road, and I've been associated with the fire department since 1980. And I want to thank the council members for re-electing me to the board if they choose so.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Is there any questions for him at this time? Hearing none. Thank you for being here and serving your community, sir. I'll ask for a motion to go back into public session or regular session, I'm sorry. I have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard, second by Councilman Pollard. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hear no oppositions, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We're moving on to reports from finance and administrative actions. Number 1, Madam Clerk.
Bid tabulation for Sugarina maintenance repairs opened on March 24th, 2022 were in the packets.
Number 2.
Bid tabulation for Sugarina four-wheel drive tractor opened on March 25th, 2022 were in the packets.
Number 3.
Balance sheets for December 2021 and January 22 were sent on request.
Number 4.
Budget reports for December 2021 and January 2022 were sent on request.
Moving on to reports from parish or other governmental agencies. Number 1, Madam Clerk.
Monthly building report for the month of March 2022 was in the packets.
Moving on to Public Works reports. Number 1, Madam Clerk.
Public Works Department report for closed work orders dated February 23rd through March 15th and March 16th through 22nd, 2022 were emailed to the council members.
Moving on to special business. Number 1, Madam Clerk.
Notice is hereby given that at its meeting to be held on Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, at 6 p.m., at its regular meeting place, the council chambers, 4th floor, main courthouse building, 300 Iberia Street, New Iberia, Louisiana. The Iberia Parish Council plans to consider adopting a resolution ordering and calling an election to be held in the parish of Iberia, state of Louisiana, to authorize renewal of a sales and use tax therein.
Moving on to council member announcements. Is there any member have announcements? Councilman Brown on the announcements.
We're gonna be giving out commodities for the senior citizen. That's in the West End Park. That's next Wednesday on the 20th. So
You have a time, Mr. Brown?
it's between 6 and 8. 6 and 8. And finally, I just want to say that I got my last booster shot Wednesday.
Good. Councilmember Brown yields back. Anyone else, members, on discussion? Councilwoman Broussard on announcement.
Just want to remind everybody on May 7th, the 5K Bayou Side Run, which is for the Iberia Mental Health Initiative, and Hope for the Acadiana, Heart for Iberia is the name of it, is the ones that are sponsoring it for mental health awareness. So we hope to see all of you out participating on May 7th. You're planning on running?
We'll get a kid in over there.
I'll cheer you on as I'm working.
Councilwoman Broussard yields back. Anyone else in discussion? Hearing none. Moving on to parish president announcements. Mr. President.
I'm going to start with the Public Works report, work that's been done since the last council meeting. We did some bulkhead work in District 3, catch basin work in District 9. We cleaned some culverts in District 2, 3, 9, 10, and 14. Culvert inspections in District 3, 9, 12, and 14. Debris pickup, District 1, 2, 5, 9, 10, 12, and 13. Field drainage work was done in District 8, 9, and 12. Roadside drainage work was done in District 3, 5, 9, and 13. We did some grading of roads in District 9 and also District 14. Road patching work was done in District 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, and 14. Road repairs was done in District 9, 12, and 14. Signage work was done in District 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Want to go on to litter abatement program that we're picking up litter throughout the parish. Well, we picked up 115 bags of trash and woods and rugs and tires and a host of stuff on Pellerin Street and Monod Street in Jeanerette, as well as Admiral Doyle Drive and Canal Street in Jeanerette. 115 bags. That's a lot. And speaking of that, we have been getting a lot of phone calls lately for bulky waste in the parish. I've been definitely talking to Waste Connection. As of yesterday, I think they've been speaking to the chairman as well as me. We have, I think it's 3 additional side boom trucks that's in Iberia Parish right now. I did a press release maybe close to a week ago and put it out there, and they're going to have these trucks here for the next 3 or 4 weeks, Warren?
Correct.
And it's a big deal. So we got a lot of, at this time of year, in April, May, when the weather started getting right, people started really cleaning up, and they get behind. And what they try to do is work a zone a day. And I think what could be happening is when they work zone 1, for example, and they don't finish zone 1, I don't think they go back to zone 1 the next day. I think they go to that next zone, and they're just leaving things like that. So we won't get into the trouble that we was in last year. A request for them to bring additional equipment, and they did, and hopefully they're going to catch up real soon. I would like to congratulate Iberia Parish Fire Chief Guy Bonin for being sworn in as the 2022 and 23 president for the Louisiana Fire Chiefs Association at their annual conference. Guy, Fire Chief for the state, is going to be hosting the 50th Louisiana Fire Chief Association annual conference here in Iberia Parish to be held in 2023. Very similar to what Eugene, as being the third vice chair for the police jury, 3 years from now, he's going to be hosting that same thing in Iberia Parish. That's a very, very, very big deal. So we got some good things happening in Iberia Parish, and we got some very active people leading the way. And Also, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I just want to let y'all know, Larry was re-elected as president of the APC, Acadiana Planning Commission,
Yeah.
and congratulations, and bring some money back.
Well,
Okay, Eugene?
I appreciate that. We have a lot of work going on there. Thank you, Marty. I appreciate that. Just a quick update for our parish council. The widening of Lewis Street, as far as APC goes. In November of '21, DOT advertised for engineering services. In February of this year, Myers Engineering was the firm that was chosen to do the project by DOTD. On the 24th of this month, on the 24th of March, the consulting contract division of the Department of Transportation sent out a contract to Myers Engineering for their signature. Once they sign that they're going to accept the job, it's going to be sent to me, and I'm going to sign it, and we can get that project moving forward. That's another big thing that we have been waiting for a long time.
A long time.
A long, long time in Iberia Parish. And listen, they talking another year, I'm talking 5 years. I mean, I hate to say it like
Yeah,
that, but it
before we
seemed
leave
like,
office,
I hope so,
hopefully.
because it's been going on for quite some time. Another thing I want to pass on, and this is the last thing, Mr. Chairman, is Iberia Parish government is going to be holding our annual Waste Day on Saturday, April the 30th, from 8:30 in the morning to 12 noon. That's going to take place, of course, behind the same place that take place every year behind the courthouse. A list of what's going to be accepted will be listed on the website, along with what's not going to be accepted. I'm going to stop right now.
Mr. Richard, I do have a question, and I get these calls often. We talked about possibly doing 2 waste
Yes.
days a year. Is that still in the plans?
Yes, I actually asked Cindy to do one in October, I think, as well, right?
So spring and fall?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know if it was
We're
October,
waiting,
but,
we're actually, of course, it's hurricane season.
right,
so
that's why we have the
We
problem.
are playing it by ear, could be into September, October, or November. But yes,
The
we
game
have to
plan is
focus on
to-
the second one.
And I do want to say something for the record while the public's hearing, watching at home. If you hire somebody commercially to cut your trees, Waste Connection is not going to pick it up. So
Thank
don't
you.
put it at the street. It is the responsibility of the homeowner and the vendor you hire to haul that stuff off. So
And-
I think that's a big issue that we have in the
Thank you
parish
so
too.
much. And if I can,
And
I'm
not
sorry.
Not only trees, but roofing,
And that's what I was
anything.
getting ready to
If
say.
you hire a contractor, that contractor is supposed to
That's-
haul off any waste that.
That's right.
that-
Any
yeah.
type of
It-
work that
yeah,
you're doing where you're hiring a
exactly.
contractor, Brian is right on it.
So you're saying that Napier sheet metal isn't the problem?
They never were. No, I don't think they will be.
Are there any questions, members, for the parish president during parish president announcements?
We already discussed, but I'd like to ask so James get here. The APC, speaking of the striping, they were supposed to do, it was 1 out of 8 to 12 roads, whatnot. But if you
Correct.
could get with them and push them to get that one done before grinding
Absolutely.
because of the weather.
Actually-
I know James is probably getting the phone calls too.
He probably is, but actually, we may end up doing that ourselves because we have done that in-house for several years. So we have the machine right now, and if I can give you a little quick update on that, we met with Sellers and Associates last week, we being Dexter, the Public Works Director, and his staff, along with engineers from Sellers, to start doing the striping on Darnell Road first. They have some concerns right there. Their concern was all about traffic control. So when they brought it to my attention, I explained to them that when you're doing striping and signage and things of that nature, typically what happens is you hire like a state police officer with the blue lights that's going to be in the back behind the cushion truck and all this other good stuff, and perhaps one in the front. Even though the road is going to be closed, for some reason, most motorists don't see a yellow light or white light and a red. They're going to see the blue ones. So you typically have to hire someone like the sheriff department to actually do, but you have to pay for that. So when we do it, we always pay the state police department. So we're in process of getting that done.
Councilman Rawson, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Rawson yields back. Any other questions for the parish president at this time? Hearing none, moving on to the consent agenda items for public hearing and adoption. Madam Clerk?
Minutes, regular meeting of March 16th, 2022. Regular meeting of March 23rd, 2022. Summary number 57, a resolution of no objection to the petition for annexation of property seeking to annex into the corporate limits of the city of New Iberia, Louisiana, an approximately 11.252 acre tract owned by Lorraine Francis Romero et al., located in Section 21, Township 12 South, Range 6 East, being on the south right-of-way of Louisiana Highway 14, consenting to the assignment of a C4 Highway Commercial District zoning classification to the property in accordance with and as allowed by the provisions of Louisiana Revised Statute 33-172, A1E, providing for the effective date thereof and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Summary number 58, introduced by the parish president.
A resolution requesting financial assistance from the state of Louisiana under the fiscal year 2021-2022 local government assistance program and community water enrichment fund program.
Summary number 59, introduced by the parish president.
A resolution amending the 2022 Sewer District Number 1 budget in the amount of $469,000 to account for a transfer from the 2022 general fund budget as amended by resolution number 2022-55, which appropriated $469,300 to relocate the UL lift station and add a new force main along Hanger Drive.
Summary number 60, introduced by the parish president.
A resolution amending the 2022 royalty fund budget in the amount of $879,048 for the following grant projects. One, to carry over federal and local city funding in the amount of $197,754 for generator project, and two, to carry over federal and property owner funding in the amount of $681,294 for home elevation project.
Summary number 61, introduced by the parish president.
A resolution amending the 2022 Sewer District Number 1 fund budget in the amount of $15,860 to correct carryover of local funding for engineering and administrative services for LCDBG project.
Summary number 62, introduced by the parish president.
A resolution amending the 2022 Airport Authority fund budget in the net amount of $19,681 for the following projects. One, to carry over federal funding in the amount of $421,843 for North GA Taxiway project. Two, to carry over state FP&C and local match funding in the amount of negative $78,724 for Hangar 88 project, and three, to carry over state and local funding in the amount of negative $66,208 for ARFF design project.
Summary number 63, introduced by legal counsel.
A resolution authorizing the parish president to execute a purchase and sale agreement by and between Iberia Parish Government, BNSF Railroad Company, and any other agreements necessary to carry out the intent and purposes of said purchase and sale agreement, providing for the effective date thereof and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda item? Have a motion by Councilman Landry, second by Councilman Rawson. Councilman Landry on discussion? Councilman Rawson on discussion? At this time, is there anyone that would like to remove a consent agenda item?
I got a question before Andy goes. Could I?
Councilman Napier on the question?
Just a generic. I remember when we went to consent, this is just something I've been wanting to ask, and now that they got what's the criteria for it being on consent? Who puts it there that decides if it's consent, or does it go, where it's discussed?
We do have a criteria that we recently passed and amended recently. Andy, you want to go offhand? I know you had.
I think we need to explain that. How, because it's a lot.
It is.
That we put in there that if somebody don't pick it up, it doesn't get discussed.
But a lot of this does.
It comes from
in
committee.
Correct.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, for the public.
You're right.
So the consent agenda was created because there are going to usually be a number of items that really have no opposition, can quickly be passed and give you time to concentrate on those items that are not necessarily of more importance, but are least controversial. And there is an ordinance that lists those items. Most of the time, it's budget amendments, but they come out of your finance committee, and as you can see, most of these budget amendments are actually adjustments as a result of grants and other things, which are generally going to be non-controversial.
Housekeeping.
And so I guess also, please keep in mind that, and I don't think any chairman has abused their authority, but the chairman is actually who creates your agenda for you under parliamentary proceedings. And so the chairman could find a particular topic that maybe after discussion with the executive committee or somebody else, hey, this is something we need immediately because there's a grant waiting on this, and so we can put it on the consent agenda. So primarily, it's that ordinance driven. And again, Mr. Napier, they're usually non-controversial items. And y'all have done a pretty good job of picking one out, and I'm fixing to ask you to pick one out in just a minute.
But so who
Later I'll
makes that
explain.
decision, Andy?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Does the chairman make that decision every week what goes on it?
No, that
look,
fits
y'all-
the criteria of your
I-
resolution.
Yeah, y'all do a great job of this, and that is that, you've set a cutoff date for the agenda. And the ladies and the clerk's office send a draft out for everybody to look at, the committee chairman. So it's, your chairmans have historically not exercised the control that they could, and they go out, you all look at it, and you say, okay, this looks fine, and so that's the agenda that ultimately gets published. So there's, I think, a good bit of time for most of you who follow and are able to get your emails to look at it and say, well, I mean, and of course, on any item on the agenda, I would urge you, if you have any questions, to call me or whatever, and maybe we can give you the background of why it was doing as an agenda, as a consent agenda item or something else. But I hope that helps a little bit. But it's primarily driven by the ordinance.
And do note, though, everything that makes it to consent agenda has favorably passed committee and got to this point, other than
No,
expansions that do
Yeah, no,
not
I-
go under committee.
I surely understand that. I just, sometimes it gets to be
Oh, a lot.
plenty, and, our job is to be upfront with the public and the people
But
watching.
it's streamlined our meetings. I mean, you
Yeah.
remember those first couple of years where,
And that's part of it, but part of our job is to sit here in a meeting.
But-
That's
Certainly.
what, it's not to try to get out of discussing an item
But
at
let me
committee and full council.
But let me-
I'm not making a
yeah.
big deal about it, but it does,
Let
I
me
don't like to see it get too many things.
Well, but let me give you just a flip side of that. Y'all have done two things that have really improved the operation of your meetings. The first one was where you went to two committees
Yeah.
and two meetings a month, as opposed to one as a committee and one. I mean, that has really made
Yeah.
a tremendous difference, not only for you, but also for your staff. The consent agenda, I think, is the second thing. And so you've seen nights where you're here and you're here till 10 o'clock and you're running out of gas. Well, if you can deal with 5 or 6 items on the consent agenda, get them out of the way, you're less likely to run out of gas when you get to those items that really are controversial and
Yeah.
need some
I got you.
discussion. So anyway, just.
Thank you, Andy, I
Yes, sir.
appreciate it.
good, Mr. Napier?
Yeah.
One second. Mr. Shealy, I think, had a request at the
Yeah,
time.
I'd like to ask that you pull summary number 63 off the consent agenda, and when it gets on the regular, I'll explain why and what's happening that I think will give you a better idea, but I think you need some explanation that goes with it.
Do believe we had just, okay. Okay, so at this time, I will take up requests to remove any agenda item from the consent agenda at this time. Is there a request? Fulfilling Mr. Shealy's request, I'll ask the council member to remove that. I think Councilwoman Broussard had that floor for it. No problem. Anyone else? Hearing none. So at this time, we're going to accept all the summaries except for summary number 63 will be removed. I had a motion by Councilman Landry, second by Councilman Rawson. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none. Roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
I do have an opposition. In opposition is Councilwoman Broussard. All others in favor, that motion carries. Go on to summary number 63, introduced by legal counsel. Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the parish president to execute a purchase and sale agreement by and between Iberia Parish Government, BNSF Railway Company, and any other agreements necessary to carry out the intent and purposes of said agreement, said purchase and sale agreement, providing for the effective date thereof, and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Do I have a motion? Have a motion by Councilman Trahan, Marty Trahan. Second by Councilman Olivier. Councilman Trahan, discussion.
Yes, I think there's some stuff that Andy needs to look at and maybe some different locations. We had talked about earlier.
Okay. Councilman Trahan yields back. Councilman Olivier on discussion. Councilman Olivier yields to legal counsel.
Yeah, I asked to put this on the agenda because the purchase and sales agreement that was sent by BNSFS requires that there be authority for the parish president to execute it. So that's one reason it appears. But, look, I agree with what both gentlemen spoke about earlier. I'm going to ask you to table this for 2 weeks to your next meeting. I'm going to tell you why. There is a discrepancy in the purchase and sales agreement on price to be paid. I want to clear that up. I called BNSF over 2 weeks ago, spoke to the head guy, and he referred me to another one. I called him, and he's not called back. The second thing that I want to have available for each of you is, if you'll notice, the legal descriptions that are included on the resolution that I prepared mention a survey or a plat. We were never supplied with that survey or plat, so I cannot honestly tell you today, okay, guys, this is how many parking spots you're going to lose, or this is, we know where the French Street one is going to be. That's not really a problem, but the arms that are here for Iberia and Washington Street, it appears that one of them is going to be on your parking lot area, and the other one is across the street, the arms. And so you've got the major part that's going to be over here. So you need to know, you need to be able to look at it and say, okay, we're going to lose 5 parking spots or 8 parking spots or whatever it is. And so and the reason I want to do 2 weeks is I want to be able to tell the railroad, your failure to provide us with that plat is what's holding us up. So it's scheduled for 2 weeks, so if you hurry up and you get us a plat, then we can get to it a lot faster. So anyway, once you get the plat, you'll be able to see and you'll be able to satisfy yourself if that's the best location or are there other locations.
Okay. Members, is there any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none at the time. I have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard to table.
Second.
Second by Councilman Rawson. Do you want to stipulate a time frame on it? I'm going to next. Did you want to?
2 weeks.
All right, Councilwoman Broussard's table is for 2 weeks. Is it okay with the second? Is there any discussion on the table, members? Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Summary number 63 is tabled. Members, by request, without objection, I'll move on to summary number 5184, introduced by Natalie Broussard of District 6. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 5 of the compiled ordinances of Iberia Parish, Louisiana, to provide amendments to the entire chapter.
Do I have a motion? Move. I have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard. Second by Councilman Landry. Councilwoman Broussard on discussion?
Yeah, I think we've gone over the majority of Chapter 5 in committee. I asked Brenda to email everybody my proposed amendment to Section 513 yesterday, and also everybody should have a copy of it in front of them. If there's any questions or any discussion about 513, I'll kind of waive till discussion's over.
Councilwoman, if you wouldn't mind, can we get the main motion discussion first, and then we'll ask for the amendment after that, take up the amendment?
Okay.
Councilwoman Broussard yields back. Councilman Landry on discussion? Councilman Landry waives. Anyone else on main motion discussion, members? Hearing none, we do have a motion to amend on the floor by Councilwoman Broussard. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Landry. Councilwoman Broussard on the amendment.
Yeah, the amendment is putting back some of the information. Originally in the ordinance that I proposed, this was all under the section of proper care of animals. What we've done is basically incorporated this with the help of Ms. Tracy Davenport to give some guidance to law enforcement officers who are investigating cruelty of animal complaints, just to give them some guidance on what they should consider during their investigation. State law does not have any guidance for them, so you're really at the discretion of the investigating officers. So that's what we're trying to do here. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'll reserve. And
Councilwoman Broussard yields back. Councilman Olivier on discussion on the amendment.
Yeah, I look at your amendment. I really think this should be a policy within the department, not in the ordinance itself. I mean, we do have a policy the department does guideline they do follow, separate from the actual ordinance. I would think it should be a policy issue, not an ordinance issue. That's my only opinion about it.
Can I respond?
Without objection.
Basically, law enforcement officers are investigating crimes that are spelled out by law. It's not the policies of the department that they define the laws. The legislative bodies define the laws, and they just enforce those laws. So I don't know why this would be an internal department policy.
Councilman, does that answer your question?
Totally, but I heard the answer.
You still have the floor, sir.
I just think it's a little bit overreach for, I don't know, it's a little troubling for me. I really think Andy has a good ordinance, based on what he wrote. I kind of read through the whole ordinance. I think adding this was really complicated. I think there should be an internal control function of the department, not policy. I just see it that way.
Are you finished, Mr. Olivier?
I'm done, yeah.
Councilman Olivier yields back on discussion. Anyone else on the amendment, discussion for the amendment? Members?
I have a question. I'm just curious.
Councilman Rossini on the discussion.
One of the Erica, I was trying to remember her name, thank you.
Erica.
When outdoor temperatures reach below, this is C, by the way. 32 degrees.
Councilman, I don't want to interrupt you. Is there a question for her? I'll bring her up here. So
Well, I
that-
figure she might be able to answer.
Okay,
That's why.
if she doesn't mind, she can step to the podium. Just, Miss Erica, if you could state your name and title.
Erica Sapak,
And your title.
Iberia Parish Rabies Control Manager.
I apologize, Councilman.
No, thank you.
You have
Thank
the floor.
I'm not a specialist, so. Well, on C, it talks about when outdoor temperatures reach below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, all domestic animals must be moved to an enclosed facility or be provided with heat. I'm just asking because we all ride around, right? When it gets below 32 degrees, you do see some animals outside. Are we starting a tit for tat? All of a sudden, the sheriff's gonna get 4,000 phone calls because it's 31 degrees. That would be my only concern. Now, the reason I brought you up, Miss Erica, is there anything proving that this needs to happen, the 32 degrees specifically?
I mean, at the shelter, we bring our animals in at 40. We don't leave any of ours outside, even with igloos and shelters that we have available.
Any specific scientific reason for it to say 32 degrees or 40 degrees?
No.
That's my only concern. Or are we starting, my neighbor got mad at me yesterday and his dog, because he don't want to cut his grass, or that's my only concern with that one right there.
Councilman Rossini, you finished?
Yes.
Councilman Rossini yields back. Councilwoman Brown on the question.
To the council, is this something that we should probably hand over to the sheriff department to possibly, put together some type of law?
Is that a question for the
Yeah.
Councilwoman Broussard?
Oh, yeah, for Ms. Broussard.
Broussard, you want to answer
The
that?
sheriff's department has no authority to create laws. Laws are created by the legislative body of the government. We are the legislative body of Iberia Parish. We're the ones that create the laws. The sheriff's department has no authority to do it. This is a guidance to give to the law enforcement officers that are investigating. So if the law enforcement officer goes out there and it's a tit for tat and they see it's 31 degrees, it was only below 32 degrees for 30 minutes, they do not have to issue a citation for cruelty to animals. They have that discretion. Then it also has a review after that. If a law enforcement officer does issue a citation for cruelty to animals, then it goes to the district attorney's office, who can screen the file and either accept or decline the charges. So we're not going out there and creating some kind of, thing where people can tattoo their neighbors because they're mad. I mean, there's a checks and balances that are still in place by operation of law.
Councilwoman Brown, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I just want to have a rebuttal in regards to not per se making it law, but implementing these guidelines. Like, if we were to pass this over to the sheriff department and say, okay, look, this is what we consider, you know, pretty much cruelty to animal. We would like you guys, when we do get a complaint, to go ahead and use this as a guideline to enforce or to say, you know, hey, you know, this might be cruelty, to use this as a guideline in regards to cruelty to animals.
Is that your question? Is that what we're doing?
No, I'm saying, is that something that we could possibly consider, to just pass this over to the sheriff's department as a guideline in regards to cruelty to animals, or does it have to go?
That's what this is doing.
Okay.
That's what this would be doing. I mean, the state law, we have a state law right now that says cruelty to animals is a criminal offense, but it doesn't define what cruelty is. This is to give some guidance. We're trying to uncomplicate things, Mr. Eugene, not complicate things.
Hold
So
on one second, hold on one
that-
second.
That's the purpose of this, is to try to give some direction to the investigating officers of what should be considered cruelty.
So, I'm sorry, can I?
You still have the floor. I mean, you'd asked the question, but I asked.
Do you think this should go to state law?
It would not go to state law. We don't have the authority to create a state law. It would be a local law.
No. Right. No, I understand. We don't have the authority to create state laws. But should this be something that should be presented to them so that they can consider actually implementing this across the state? And
I mean, that's up to our state legislatures. I mean, I'm asking, you know, the legislative body of our community to, as we're making this amendment to Chapter 5 of our ordinances, to include this. This language is in several different parishes' ordinance. I cut it drastically from what I originally presented that was cut by legal. So it's very much toned down. It's very bare bones. It's to try to uncomplicate it, to give guidance to our investigating officers. We create laws all the time. I mean, we determine what the speed limit should be on roads. We determine what, all the things that we have, that we pass resolutions and ordinances day in and day out. I mean, that's our job. That's what we're elected to do.
Councilwoman Brown, are you finished? Councilwoman Brown yields back. Just to remind you members, the discussion on the floor is the amendment, so try to be germane with it. Any other discussion? Councilman Brown, on the discussion on the amendment.
First of all, I think doing this is gonna cost money that we don't have. That's number one. And number two, I would wanna hear from Andy on some of this.
Mr. Shealy, did you want to take a swing at this? Mr. Brown, yield this time to you, Mr. Shealy.
Let me just comment, first of all, and I know we're on the amendment, but that wasn't my ordinance. Erica happened, Natalie started off with a good place, Ms. Davenport had input, so the ordinance itself came from a lot of people, and it's not just mine, so I want to make sure that everybody that was involved in that gets proper credit for it. So let me talk about the amendment, and I did not include that in the one that I drafted because, first of all, the one you have before you basically has 6 definitions of to be used in investigations of animal cruelty complaints. And you have to keep in mind there is a state statute that defines cruelty to animals. And there's quite a bit of case law interpreting that statute and providing guidance to law enforcement as well as to the judiciary on deciding those particular cases. And I guess I want to make it clear that the state statute actually has 5 of those definitions in it already. So the state statute starts off with the premise that it's cruelty to animals to cause unjustifiable pain and suffering. Pretty broad, but that's the premise. So then it goes on and defines cruel as every act or failure to act whereby unjustifiable physical pain or suffering is caused or permitted. Law enforcement knows what that is, and there's case law that interprets it. Abandon, there's a definition of abandon, means to completely forsake and desert an animal previously under the custody or possession of a person without making reasonable arrangements for its proper care, sustenance, and shelter. That's in the state statute. That's not included in the statute, the amendment that you have before you. Proper food means providing each animal with daily food of sufficient quality and quantity to prevent unnecessary or unjustifiable suffering by the animal. Proper shelter means providing each animal with adequate shelter from the elements, kind of what Mr. Ronson talked about, as required to prevent unnecessary or unjustifiable suffering by the animal. Proper veterinary care means providing each animal with veterinary care sufficient to prevent unnecessary or unjustifiable physical pain or suffering by the animal. So you have adequate state law definitions and a statute to prevent cruelty to animals. Mr. Davenport brought up a really good point. We are seeing some horrendous abuse that takes place. There's no question about that. Please keep in mind that you, as a parish, can only define misdemeanors. So the maximum sentence that someone could receive under your ordinance is a $1,000 fine and 6 months in jail, maximum. However, if we get some of those horrendous cases that Mr. Davenport's talking about, under the state statute, the fine could be anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 and imprisonment for not less than 1 year, no more than 10 years or both. So you have a much more serious way to address those heinous crimes. I see some of you on your phone. I hope you're not communicating back and forth to people in the audience about it.
No,
But
sir, I'm
anyway,
looking
I
up the
just,
statute.
And it's 14102.1, just in
Thank you.
case you are looking for it. So I think you have an adequate state law. And I want law enforcement, that's a statute that's across the state. I want law enforcement to know that, okay, I can go to my books and I can look at the cases and I can determine if this is cruelty or not. I don't want to get in a situation where, you know, somebody tries to say, well, it's not cruelty because it's not exactly defined in your statute like it is in state statute. That state statute's pretty broad, so it can take into account just about any type of abuse or neglect that takes place. And again, one of the premises in all of this was you currently operate a rabies control and loose animals. And that's the kind of funding you have. Could we do more if we had more funding? Yeah, but we don't. And so I've tried to do all of this kind of that matches up with your funding, and poor Erica is pretty much by herself with some other part-time employees. So it's everything they can do, and she's done a great job of rescuing out animals. I don't know that there's been any rescuable animals that have been euthanized since Erica
No.
arrived. It's a major shift. So I think the ordinance that was presented is adequate to deal with the issues that you have, and let state law, you know, deal with cruelty to animals. Look, it's serious. I'm not suggesting that it's not serious. I'm just saying I think there's an adequate remedy in state law.
Mr. Brown, you still have the floor, sir. Councilman Brown yields back. Anyone else on amendment? Councilman Ralston?
Fine, I see Mr. Fox, if I could yield some time to him. He has a question.
Sounds like overreach, all these are.
Hold on one second, Mr. Fox. Did you want to come again?
Well, he just said it, so.
I said it sounds like overreach.
I do have a question for Mr. Sheila, though, and that, I try to stay out of courtrooms, no offense to y'all.
Yeah.
But
So do we as much as we
say
can.
you have one of these cases where it's bad, right? The cruelty is obvious, whatnot. Is it possible for an attorney to plead down, say we pass this, from the $5,000 fine to the $1,000 fine and kind of wiggle his way out of that?
Yes.
Yeah? So do we want to do that, I guess is where I'm headed.
That's gonna always be an option.
Yeah.
I mean, and your state law defines simple cruelty, and that's the misdemeanor. Aggravated cruelty is the more serious. You can only define basically simple cruelty because you can only do,
Misdemeanor.
yeah.
That answered my question.
So,
Councilman Rawson, yields back. Councilman Napier on amendment discussion.
so does this go, in your opinion, legal opinion, does it over, like Mr. Fox says, does it go past what we trying to do, Andy? I'm never one to try to overreach anything. I think we got too much government in everything, but we still gotta protect the ones that can't protect themselves, and that's the animals. I mean, what brought us here is because we were having trouble at the place, and now we wanna fix it.
What I think really brought us here is the desire not to euthanize animals. Primarily,
Well,
that's what
that-
brought.
Correct,
yeah.
and now we wanna, while we doing it,
Yeah.
we wanna protect those animals that might be being abused, but without some overreach. I don't know, I mean, I'm just, you are legal rep.
Well, I think the legislature has defined it, and I think the real problem here is this. We can take everybody in this room, and we could present a situation, and there may be, I don't know, 50 different opinions about whether that was cruelty or not, because it's kind of on the fringes. We could look at another case, and everybody in here would agree it's cruelty because it's so heinous. So, you know, I think what's really happening is, there's a desire to interject what somebody thinks is cruelty that may not be what the legislature thinks is cruelty or you think is cruelty. You know, I guess that's the best I can do on that
I
issue.
got
You know,
Thank you.
Councilman Napier, you finished?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Napier, yours back. Councilman Matra on question on the amendment.
I guess what I'm hearing from Andy is the state is kind of, there's more interpretations when you read it, the state, and this is kind of tying their hands, I guess. I can see where, like, at the beginning, it says, any police officer, law enforcement, constable, authorized designee. I can see constable maybe and authorized, like our shelter people looking at A, B, C, D, E, and F, but like law enforcement, like an SO deputy coming to my place and telling me my horse's teeth need to be floated, or I need to bring my horse in because it's 32 degrees. I don't see that happening. But like the shelter would be more familiar with if a horse needs to be trimmed or teeth floated. Like a deputy, I mean, he's gonna, like, I don't know. I'm being serious. It's like.
Well, when it comes to the shelter, I'm not able to enforce what is animal cruelty. That is up to the officer that is out there on the case. I'm there to seize the animal from the officer. And so it's the officer's opinion if they think that it's animal cruelty. It's under their opinion.
And they go by this. I mean,
hold on one second, Councilman.
I would
Councilman
think
Matra,
they
Go by the law that's set in place at this time.
which already has a broad interpretation that, and then I'm guessing Erica could, like, okay, this is what you're dealing with. I mean, seriously, I'm pretty sure those guys don't ride around looking to see if a dog's too skinny or something. They got other things to worry about. So I think that Erica would be the one that would say, look, this is what we're dealing with, this is what we have. I don't know. I mean, I think it's great. It's just, I don't know. It's too much.
Just to give you an idea, since January, we've had 27 cruelty cases. Since November, we've had 44. And that is the ones that have come to us by police opinion of cruelty. Yes, I have. My opinion of what animal cruelty is sometimes does differ from theirs. But they're the officer. They're the ones that are giving out the citations, and their determination is their opinion, and that trumps everything else.
Right, but could that contribute to a changing of the guards also? Like, you took over this, like Andy said, you took over this shelter
Yeah.
and pretty much made a 180-degree turnaround, so maybe there's a different effort being put forth that wasn't being done before.
Yeah, I mean.
It was turn a blind eye, or just, maybe you're the reason some of these things are coming to the forefront,
Yes.
because it's being handled differently.
Right, and I don't let it go.
Right, exactly, that's my point, yeah.
I believe, Mr. Shealy had something he wanted to add. Councilman, were you finished?
Yeah, I'm done.
Councilman Montoya yields back.
I think I can add an explanation that may help on Mr. Machuran's question. Keep in mind that your animal control people are not law enforcement officers. The people that can enforce this statute are law enforcement officers. They're the only people, you have to be post-certified to be able to seek a search warrant, to go on the property and those kind of things, to issue an affidavit, to do a warrant, those kind of things. It's law enforcement. It's not SERCA. So what I envisioned when I was doing all this was that we would still always be willing to help find a shelter for an animal that's been cruelly treated. Erica's going to continue to do this, but this is really, whether or not cruelty to an animal took place, that's a law enforcement decision. And it would be a law enforcement decision no matter what ordinance they were using. So usually when there's interpretations of ordinances, you don't see a lot of case law about it. When you see a state statute, and there've been prosecutions under that state statute, or there've been cases brought under that state statute, you'll have reported cases from the Court of Appeals. So, just want you to know that she's not gonna have, no matter what happens, she's not gonna have the enforcement. That's still a law enforcement issue.
Councilman Olivier, I think you had your hand up.
And they kind of answered part of the questions I was going to ask. The ordinance deal with our rabies control program, and I think it's a clean ordinance. The cruelty part of it, state statute addresses that issue through state statute. So I feel that we should be supporting the ordinance as written and not the cruelty part, which is the state's responsibility through statute. Thank you.
Councilman Olivier yields back. Anyone else on the discussion of the amendment? Councilwoman Broussard.
Yeah, I just want to point out that this amendment does not take the investigation away from law enforcement and put it on our animal control officers. And, if you go to the state statute, their definitions of these things, the definitions in this, my amendment is very broad. They're even broader. Proper shelter means providing each animal with adequate shelter. Proper water is providing each animal with daily and sufficient water. Proper food is providing each animal with daily food of sufficient quality and quantity to prevent unnecessary justifiable suffering. We're not that different. It's just giving them a little bit more guidance. All I can do is ask each of you to look at this and say, do you think it's reasonable? Does it make sense that if you're going to own an animal, you have to do this? If you don't think that these bare minimums are reasonable, then don't vote in favor of it. If you think that these bare minimums are reasonable, then I ask you to support it.
Councilwoman Broussard yields back. Just a little bit. My biggest issue is law enforcement enforcing this. I think that, with the way things are, hypothetically, let's say at the same time we get a call on domestic violence or something in the community, and I get a call for animal cruelty. Where's the sheriff going to prioritize first? He's going to go to the domestic call, right? So we're gonna load him up a little more, but I don't disagree with the guidelines that you set forth here. I think at some point in time, Brian said it. These are animals who can't speak or defend for themselves. There has to be something to be done. We have to be responsible in our community. Is it an overreach of government? it's borderline, you're getting close if you're not there. Look, I love animals. You're making this one, this is a hard one right here. I like the amendment, I just think we stretching it like my friend over there with the teeth on his horse. I mean, it's just some of these things, I can tell you, I can drive you in my district and probably 20% of my people are gonna go to jail at some point. You know, and it's like, how much enforcement can you be? How fair can the sheriff's department be when it comes to these things and the officer interpreting this? Anyone else on the amendment? Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll vote on the amendment, if the amendment's successful, we'll add it into and then vote on a total package because we did a piecemeal. Any objection to that? So tonight, we have an amendment. We'll vote on the amendment. If the amendment is successful, this vote is in favor, then we'll go back to the main motion that adds the amendment, and then we vote as a whole package.
Just to clarify, if this doesn't pass, it doesn't mean that we don't
Go back
have
to the main motion
cruelty
without-
investigation possibilities, correct? There's still,
I think he read out the guidelines in the state
it doesn't
statute.
take away from, there still being,
Correct.
someone could be prosecuted for being
Yes.
cruel.
They would use.
This
the
is just
same-
more teeth in the game, if you will.
Yeah, this is like requiring you to wear a belt with pants, and then this one would tell you you have to be 3 holes from the end, basically with a belt. So I just want to make sure that we're not doing away with cruelty investigation, but if this doesn't pass, it's still there. Okay.
More teeth in the game, Mr. Montaran, more teeth in the game.
Well, that's more to float too.
Okay, gentlemen, Mr. Brown, you would go with the rules? How we said it about if this passes, then we go back and take a vote on the main motion with the amendment in it. Councilwoman Bruce Brown, you good? Okay, all right, let's vote on the amendment by Councilwoman Broussard, and it was seconded by Councilman Landry. Roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, put your hands up, ayes. I know there's gonna be some against. Put your hands up if you're in favor. Those in the affirmative, I have Councilman Broussard, Councilman Paul Landry, Councilman Napier, Councilman Goshenson, Councilwoman Broussard, and Councilman James Strong. What do you have there? I have 6 in the affirmative. Those opposed, raise your hand. I have Councilman Brown, Councilman Pollard, Councilman Rossini, Councilman Marty Trahan, Councilman Olivier, and Councilwoman Brown. And Councilman Mathurin opposed. So, yeah. 7 opposed. That amendment fails. Now to the main motion. Any discussion on the main motion, members? Long-winded from the amendment. Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hear no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Going back to summary number 5183, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 1 of the Iberia Parish Government Code of Ordinances to include the creation of precincts for voter convenience.
I'll need a motion. I have a motion by Councilman Landry, second by Councilman Napier. Councilman Landry on discussion. Councilman Napier on discussion. I do think the clerk has something she wants to say.
Yes, Mr. Mike Hefner called me, emailed me yesterday and asked that we change the wording a little bit because the state wants to do one ordinance to adopt the plan with this change in it. So in front of each of y'all, y'all have a substitute of 5183. So if someone could make that motion to do the substitute.
Let's make a discussion on the original motion first. Is there any discussion?
Yeah. Is he screwing us just like he did the last time?
Oh, easy.
No, let me go there, Mr. Trahan. The reason this is coming up is he took 5-5 and 5-4 was put together, which if you know in my district, that's 2 very large precincts. So what we're doing is splitting those precincts up to create from 5-4 to create 5-7, and then the old 5-5 will go into 5-4, and 5-4 will go into 5-7. Does that answer? Okay. Councilman
I
Olivier?
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
District 5.
correct.
Right.
District 5, right.
District 5.
And it doesn't change any district boundary lines.
No.
Really stand up, Marty, I love
I caught enough on the last one.
Anyone else on the main motion discussion before we take up the substitute motion? Hearing none, the substitute motion, is it okay with the main motioner in a second?
Yes.
Mr. Napier? All right, we do have a substitute motion to include the language that Brenda provided by Paul Landry and a second by Brian Napier. Is any discussion on the substitute? Hearing none, roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 5185, introduced by the parish president. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the compiled ordinances of Iberia Parish, Louisiana, to revise the fee schedule for the issuance of building, plumbing, electrical, and AC heating permits.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Landry, Paul Landry. Second by Councilman Marty Trahone. Councilman Landry on discussion. Councilman Landry waves. Councilman Trahone.
Wait for discussion.
Boy, here we go. Councilman Trahone waves. Now, the James Trahone discussion.
Please step up.
Sure. Mr. Reaver, if you can state your full name and title for the record, sir.
Thank y'all. Jacob Weaver, I'm with Permitting, Planning, and Zoning for Iberia Parish.
Mr. Trahone, you have the floor, sir.
So Jacob, you are our inspector as of right now, right? Not officially, but we will be kicking that off here pretty shortly.
Okay, pretty soon. So this ordinance tonight has nothing to do with you being our inspector or not, correct?
Correct.
It's only to increase the fees and add some permits we never had before, is that correct?
We're not adding any extra permits as far as like what things need to be permitted before. No, but as far as the permit fee schedules, yes, we are adjusting them to not be in the red in a sense.
Oh, so what I'm seeing though, we got a lot more permitting than we had before.
I think it's just in a broken down different way. Apologize for people that don't see permit fee schedules often, but what you see as far as the big breakdowns, that's for new construction permits. When it comes down to your smaller permits for, change outs, things like that.
Right.
We're trying to, we want people to come in for those things. We're not trying to scare them away. So we do, Lafayette, Acadiana, parishes, cities, they created a general permit fee for just one inspection, just to kind of cover one inspection fee.
So you are adding permits that wasn't there before, is what I'm getting at, right?
No, we have that now. It's just whenever they do call in for them, we don't get many people submitting for a reno permit or a change out. But
Well, I got chapter 6 ordinance that we have on the books now, and there's nothing that deals with this in that chapter 6 in that original ordinance.
So it's on the discretion of, how they call our office whenever they do request a permit. And like I said, Lafayette, the permit fee schedule is broken down that way to interpret a new construction project. Whenever they have these smaller renos and things like that, they created minimum permit fees because, somebody might be renovating their back porch or some small project, so that's where we try to create those general minimum permit fees. And I think when they added the swimming pools in a few years ago, the solar panel stuff, they actually adopted what Lafayette does, and that's the $350 per thousand on cost of construction. So
They pulled chapter 6 for me. I read all 40 pages, and none of that was in there. So I don't know where you're getting that from.
Yeah, I don't. As far as like what's passed by the state, Mr. James, as far as things that need to be permitted,
Yeah.
and then when they pull into our office, we have a reno permit, and that's where those all fall under. The swimming pools, the solar panels, and it comes down to just a cost of construction base.
Right, by the state. But some of this right here is not by state, it's what you created to try to pass on more permits to the people.
No, as far as like a clarification on what Mark Joyner with the State Construction Code Council, so it's chapter 1 with them. It is very clear, even in my IBC code book, my IRC code book, as far as things that don't need to be permitted, fences, trim, stuff like that, things that do need to be permitted, new wiring, new appliances, things like that. And this is to ensure, they putting this on us, and we're public servants. We want to help the client, we want to help the contractor, and it's about ensuring a healthy environment for the public, a safe environment from fires. So I apologize that it's not being interpreted that we don't have that, but if they do come into our office, there is a way for us to sell the permit right now for, let's say, somebody wanting to do just an AC change out. We would have sold them just a minimal building permit. just because that's what the inspection company wants us to do, because they need to do one inspection. But do they come in for those changeouts? You know, that's on the responsibility of the owner and the contractor to come get those.
Right. Now, you're gonna be able to handle, I know Mr. Boudreaux's left, so the director, are you gonna be handling that also?
Yes, and I have been getting a lot of good feedback. You know, I've spoken with a lot of the contractors, a lot of the surveyors. We've been cranking away in the last few weeks, and before I took the position, it was to, you know, to weigh out how many permits y'all generate and how many inspections y'all do in a month, and just to kind of cover that topic. You know, it's only about a fourth of the inspections that I was doing at my last company.
Right,
So,
but now you're also doing plan review, you also, be the director of planning and zoning. So you think you can do all that by yourself with no help?
I'm handling it right now, sir, so.
You handle it right now, but we don't have, you're not inspecting anything right now, what you
No,
said.
and I get that, and I don't want to say I have time on my hands, you know, because I don't want to think people that, we did lose Reed, it was a loss, but I think the planning and zoning is not, you know, and this is me pitching this off of other people, that the planning and zoning is actually not a lot coming in. You know, we have a hearing examiner process to keep a lot of these plat approvals and stuff like that, you know, going through and not bogging us down. Certain things that you have to go to planning commission and zoning commission. You know, I'm a load the wagon, don't worry about the mule kind of guy, but I am confident in the amount of work that I can do. We have worked out, we do anticipate hiring an inspector. You know, I do want to hire an inspector to help me out so we don't have this problem. And it is about providing the amount of oversight and service to the public so they can come in and they can get a quick plan review and they can get a permit and they can get out. And after talking to numerous people in the last few weeks, you know, I do have their confidence that it's actually going to be faster now. I shouldn't be saying on the camera, but right now it's a very long turnaround for a permit. And the plan review fees is actually what's hammering these guys. Solar panels, swimming pools, small electrical diagrams, and they're charging $200-300 for a plan review. I've gone down to a third of that cost because that's what Acadiana does. That's what, you know, Mr. Cooney does. That's what Lafayette does. That's a lot of people do. They're very cheap on their plan reviews, and I can turn a plan review around in a day, better than 10 to 20 business days because we're dealing with a third-party company out of another parish. You know, so.
So you will be hiring somebody to help you, so we will have an extra cost added to this program, what we have right here in this department, correct?
We did lose an employee, but,
Yeah.
you know, for a long time, the parish has, you know, paid for our department, and we've given all of our permit fees away.
Right.
And so we really, you know, it's unfortunate that the taxpayers have had to pay for this department, and, you know, it's Mr. Larry, and thank you for the hire. Y'all hired well, and now we actually not going to have to pay somebody to do this. So I want to have your confidence to not, you know, I mean.
Well, we're not paying them anymore, but now we're paying you to do it. So it's not a total cost savings, and then we're gonna have to hire another guy to help you. So you already costing us $100,000 a year. Okay, we're paying $180 to Aberville. So you wanna go up on fees of the people, for what reason why we need to go up on the fees of these permits? Can you tell me that?
And like I said, I'm going down on the plan review fees. It's only a fraction going up on the building permit fees. The electrical, the plumbing, the HVAC fees are not being adjusted too much. I don't know how to tell you, Mr. James. You know, I apologize that, you know, it's getting misinterpreted as if we mishired or did something like that. But whenever we brought me in to do this, it was to help Reed out because he had the decision to move on. So I knew what was kind of being anticipated. But we you know, we planned to do this to finally have Iberia Parish. Like, this is a big opportunity for a parish to be able to do this because once you have the correct permit fees and things like that, we're going to be able to hire. The taxpayer's not going to it won't cost the taxpayers any money for doing this. It'll be the client that, you know, is needing this oversight on their project. It's required by state law. And to remind that the ICC gives us a schedule to follow on how to do these fee schedules. And, you know, Lafayette took that and they made a fee schedule, and the other municipalities took that and made a fee schedule. And I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. You know, we're doing it the same way they're doing it. And by ICC standards, we're actually a third of the cost of what permit fee schedules are actually supposed to be, you know?
The homeowner is the taxpayer around here, so they will be paying, it is a taxpayer who's paying extra fees for this. You know, we always talk about we need rooftops over here. But if we go up on fees and we charging, say what Lafayette, Youngsville charges, how are you gonna get rooftops here? Rooftops bring in money every year. So you wanna get one permit and make it on one permit and shy away somebody from building a house because the permit fees are this much as Lafayette. When you should make it affordable for people to wanna come here and try to build a house here in Iberia Parish.
How do I answer that? A gallon of gas is as expensive here as it is in Lafayette. A 2x4 is the same way, you know, and the contractors, you know, that I have been speaking with, you know, they are very aware of this fee schedule. They have dealt with this fee schedule before. I covered St. Martin Parish before I did this, and Broussard, you know, but I was also, you know, in 15 municipalities across Acadiana, and they all use this fee schedule, and they all trusted us to not be too much of an overreach or an oversight. It was to help contractors that come in and get that permit happily. They were happy to be able to give that final inspection report to that homeowner to, hey, it's my clean bill. I did a good job. State's licensed guy is signing me off. We're good to go, you know? So, and that, I feel like that's a small fee to have that
So
warranty.
how can we have a St. Martin Parish, okay, to build, say, a 10,000 square foot commercial building, the permit's about $2,090. Over here, it's $5,000.
That's not, I don't know if that's accurate.
Oh, it's not accurate?
No.
Oh, boy. Okay. It's not accurate. Well, that's not what I was told. But anyway,
So a 10,000 square foot building, depending on the type of occupancy, those charts give us the cost of construction for any type of building that you can submit, whether it's a residential, whether it's a factory, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a business. The International Code Council has compiled all this information up to know how much a building costs, whether the contractor has a contract for the cost of construction, because that's what we're going off of. If they have a contract for cost of construction, we're going to go off of that per thousand. If they don't, which is never on a commercial building, but on a residential, you know, your big builders they're paying these fees, but the guy that doesn't know how to, the selfers, will guess, you know, and the National Home Builders Association puts the average at $104 right now per square foot. You cannot build a house for $104 a square foot right now, but that's actually the fee, that's actually the cost of construction that I use. But when a builder turns in his plans, he's going with $150 a square foot on cost of construction, and that's actually the way the permit fees made out. So it's actually, the builders appreciate this because the guy that doesn't know how to build and thinks he's going to get it done for less gets to pay a less permit fee schedule. So
some of these permit fees you have right here, they very, you know, you want this to adopt this to an ordinance, which you want us to pass this. But can you explain to me why on, we're gonna pick a home, okay, for existing, if we're gonna change something out on the AC, per system's $30, per component's $30, complete change out is $50. You go to an apartment, and complete replacement is $50, per component is $50, and per condenser is $50. Why is an apartment everything the same price?
and
Can you explain
again,
that to me? I mean,
no,
you-
and
you
again,
drew
and
this
it's
up,
like
didn't you?
per outlet, per component, things like that. It's all about trying to get that up to a number to provide an inspector for the amount of trips that they have to go out there. So an AC permit is going to be $100. I mean, it's going to be between $100 and $200 for an AC permit. That's how it is right now. You know, and it's really, so I'm really not actually adjusting that number. I just have it structured in a different way. So if we do have a gigantic commercial building that has ton of tonnage in it, you can have the amount of permit fee for the amount of oversight that you're about to spend the time out there checking those systems, you know?
So you say that they're gonna take you more trips to inspect an apartment than they will a house
Absolutely.
for a change out?
For a change out? I mean, it depends on the amount of.
You have existing right here, we have.
Yeah, I
new
mean, Mr.
existing.
James, if I got to go out to a residential, I got an attic air handler and an outside condensing unit. If it's a commercial building that's got boilers and, you know, it's a variable speed, they got all kind of stuff going on. Man, it's a good bit to check out, you know?
I get all that, but apartment complex, okay, so you got an apartment, you change the condenser at an apartment, it's $50, change it at a house, it's $30, and you're saying it takes longer to look at the apartment condenser than the house condenser? What you trying to tell me right now?
I think it's on cost of construction almost for a commercial project that is always going to be more expensive.
It's right here, you drew it up, dude.
Well,
It
well,
says
$20.
existing apartment.
I didn't, again, I didn't invent this.
you didn't invent this, for what, you want us to pass this tonight and you don't even know what it is?
No, I know what it is. I'm saying I didn't create this over again. I've been using this for 10 years with other municipalities. It has been this way. As far as a $20 extra for a commercial permit and a residential permit, it's $20 more of time that an inspector has to spend out there in layman terms.
And also on a commercial building, there's no change out on the commercial building, so we can do commercial buildings for free on change outs?
I mean,
Guess so,
I
huh?
apologize for the answer on that, but I just say that
Yeah, we're gonna.
it's going to be, it'd be treated as
We're gonna charge
a,
the homeowner, we're gonna give the business guy, hey, man, yours is free
it'd be
today.
charged as a
Oh,
new
yeah.
construction permit.
Let
yeah.
him rip, huh? You know, when you first came here, I said, you know, man, whenever you try to go, we were supposed to go in-house with what we was doing before. None of this was supposed to come up. We were supposed to take from Abbeville, bring it in-house, do our in-house inspections for new construction. That's what the plan was. Then you come up with this. And I ask you, when you get ready to start with this, why don't you maybe get with me and I can kind of talk with you and we can try to make things work smoothly. But you took it upon yourself not to talk to me about this with other people you talked about in this council, and you choose to leave me out on this, when it could have went very smoothly if we could have talked this out. But you chose not to.
Mr. James, my office is at 715 Weldon Street, and it's wide open. I sell permits every day to
Okay, so the
contractors.
council people that got on this meeting that y'all had, they went to your office and asked you to be on there?
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
The council people you met with to make this up, they went to your office and asked you to be on there?
I had no council members involved with it. That kind of would have been a, look, as far as
You
the,
didn't have any council
the,
members involved with none of this?
no, I mean, we had some discussions,
Oh,
but that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
this is for. You know, I mean, as far as like
That's
them,
what I'm getting at. So
nobody
they
pitched
went
an
to you and went to
idea.
your office and knocked on your door and said, hey, let's talk about
All
this?
right, gentlemen, let's try to remain in
Nobody
regular
pitched an
order,
idea. I
please.
mean, nobody pitched any ideas. I mean, like I said, Mr. James, I think, you know, I'm trying to stick with what works, you know, in the majority of Acadiana. I'm just trying to get Iberia Parish into a little bit better position. That's what I came here for. And the price increase on our permit fees, I think, you know, is justified for, you know, what we are providing for them. You know, we've been doing it. I think the parish deserves, you know, proper oversight, and you would be surprised. I know, like gentleman said earlier, licensed contractors, you know, do that, but you and I both know that's, you know, you have some people that are not giving the same product, and at the end of the day, when I go out there to inspect, it's to make it, I'm ensuring the price of these houses, the price of these buildings somewhat are being, not going down, going up, you know, and I know it's a hard thing for some people to interpret and understand, you know, but I've been in construction my entire life. I joined the Air Force at 17 for construction, and I've been doing building department work for 10 years. And then I've made a very good, you know, very good relationship with all the builders and AC contractors and plumbers and electricians, and they don't look at me as a hard guy to work with or anything like that. I'm not a, you know, and not trying to reinvent the wheel. I just think it was a prime opportunity for Iberia Parish to take a look at this fee schedule, because it needed to be done, because, you know, it's like the city, it's like us, we were losing money. You know, the third party company was, you know, it would have been a tough go staying with them, because they were going to go up on fees. We'd have been even more in the red, you know. So yeah, you're right. We don't, you know, we could say like this, we could put Jacob to work tomorrow doing inspections. I'm going to save the parish money tomorrow because I can do the inspections with the fee schedules as they are. But are we being right by staying it in a way that's not giving us just a little bit more that it's needed for this oversight? I mean, we have a lot. We have FEMA. We have, you know, the new code books are coming out in August. You know, we haven't adopted new code books in 6 years. The state really has to do that by the end of the year. They lose out on a gigantic grant. And, you know, it's trying to get us in the right place. You know, I think, you know, I'm out there to work for the contractors. I'm not out there to be hard on them, you know. Same thing with the homeowners, you know. And we get people in my office every day that are lost when they come in, and I feel like when they leave, I've given them handouts. I've given them a proper plan review. I've opened the book up for them, and that's what I do. That's why I like to do that. I enjoy my public service, you know.
Mr. Trumbo, you finished, sir?
Almost, Mr.
Okay,
Mr.
go ahead.
Gusher, so, what kind of licensing will this go after, like, what kind of license you have to buy these permits?
As far as the state license goes, we're not actually registering contractors right now. We're still selling all of the permits under one building permit, and I actually like that way. A lot of the builders like that way. Obviously, the self-contractors and homeowners that are building their own houses like it that way. We don't want to break up that permit. But yeah, if an AC guy walks in or a plumber walks in and needs a gas permit, we do it. And it's nice that some of these guys are showing up without even a request that, hey, I'm going to be working in your area pretty soon. Here's my insurance. Here's my license. And we register them. We put that on file so we know. But, it's just like anybody else. If you want to, it was like earlier, I actually do think the electrician, that's their permit for them to be able to call in their inspection. That's their work. That's like the contractor having the building permit. That's their work. It's not the homeowner. Same thing with the HVAC or the plumbing. You wouldn't want the builder holding your permit. That's, and it goes over every jurisdiction. But Broussard and I think St. Martin still sells all their permits together. But Broussard and Karen Crow and a lot of these people have, they do registering of contractors, so they broke the permits up. And it's for tracking of the inspections too, to give each of the guys their own permit. And, hey, you call in your electrical wall and you call in your final and your service. And, you're not waiting on a builder because the permit holder is the only person that's actually supposed to be able to schedule the inspection. So builder's got your permit, well, electrician can't call in his own inspection because he's not authorized to schedule an inspection through the permit. So to answer your question, as far as licensing, just like anybody else, as far as pulling a permit, you got to have a license.
You gotta have a license.
I wouldn't let somebody pull a permit for somebody else's house that isn't a licensed person.
So you have to have a license to buy the permit.
A homeowner can purchase in the state of Louisiana.
Right, the homeowner can buy it.
Yeah, the we have a affidavit for licensure exemption, and Lafayette did a good job of a lot of people did a good job of that. They let them do that, and if they get out there and they figure out that, whoa, this is not a good job, and most of the ordinances that you see is that they'll revoke the permit and they'll say, well, we need a light. If I get out there on a service inspection and this guy's been butchering that panel all day, and I show up and it's past me trying to teach a guy the NEC, I'll say you need a licensed electrician to permit and make corrections at that point. But I do, homeowner can pull his own permit, wire his own panel. And I say that cautiously because, in a gas inspection, it's the same thing. You're supposed to be a licensed plumber to be pulling those permits and doing that work. You got to have a fitter's license. You got to have all that good stuff. So, to answer your question, yeah, you have to be licensed to pull a permit for somebody else's property, even for a commercial.
No, I'm done.
You good, Mr. Strong?
Yeah.
Jacob, before I go to another question, you mentioned something about a plan review being able to turn around in one day.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I get quite a few phone calls that take 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, I know. It's because they're bogged down. They're a third-party company. I mean, the last company I worked for, the architect that I worked with, she did 100% of our plan reviews. So she was the plan review architect, and you had to be really good at it to stay ahead of 15 cities and parishes. We have one parish here to deal with, and we pull anywhere from 8 to 10 residential permits a month. In Broussard, I was dealing with 5 or 6 times that much.
Jacob, let me ask you, when the new development in Coteau takes off, and of course they start to build these homes, are you able to handle all those plan reviews?
Oh, yeah. And the good thing about the D.R. Horton plan review, they sat in my office last week. We had a good talk.
So you're in conversations with these developers?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. I've dealt with them in several. I've dealt with McLean in his own neighborhoods, in his own houses, as well as D.R. Horton and DSLD and Steve Ashe, BO, those guys, those developers.
So I've gotten the calls from the contractors and the general public about these fees and permits. I guess I kind of understand the argument you're making, but at the same time, we have to crawl, then walk, and then we're able to run. Would you imagine we can still do what we're doing now as far as the collections and the process? If we would table this or delete this tonight, we would still be able to operate that office, correct?
Right now, I'll just add, the office is operating off of tax dollars regardless. And most contracts that, let's just say the permit fee schedule isn't big enough to pay a little bit left over to pay us because the inspection company needs all that money to operate for inspection. So everything we collect is almost going straight to them. So, and that's been that way for years.
Correct.
You know?
And listen, let me tell you, when I first got here, some of them could tell you, we were running $300,000 plus deficit in that department. So we've come a far ways of improvement. I just, the question, just yes or no, can you, the department run as it is today, us hiring you, doing it in-house without us touching anything or removing anything, and we can at least look at,
No, I was saying we're operating right now. You know, I could do a plan review, I can do a permit on this schedule.
And the reason I'm asking is, let's look at what we have, let's see where we're going within the next 90 days, 120 days, and then we can assess where we need to be at. At least we'll know what our department costs and revenues and expenses are then, and we can adequately come back and say, well, we may have bitten off a little more than we chew, or we're improved from where we were. Because I think there's a lot of information out there that's kind of getting back to council members about how this breakdown is, and I think we're moving a little fast, if I can say that. Do I think some of your responses were good? Yes, you had some good comebacks, but I think at the same time, this department is going to be overwhelming, especially when things get to moving again, people start building homes over the summer. I mean, I've worked very close with Mr. Boudreaux, and he could, I mean, how many times we've talked to him, and he was frustrated with the amount of work that was coming in. So let's give you an opportunity to get your feet wet, per se, and then we can come back. And this is me, I mean, if the council wants to still pass it tonight, that's fine. I'm not against or objecting to what you're trying to do. I just want more information and facts before we make that discretion here in front of the council. So let me go to Councilman Montran and then Councilman Napier. Councilman Montran, discussion?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Warren's saying. The only thing I'd like to see, look, I know nothing about this. I got a bunch of phone calls.
Yeah.
And these guys are filling in information that's their trade. If it's something about a lawnmower or horse's teeth, I can tell you about it. But I'd like to see, like a 2,000 square foot home, what it would cost you right now for a permit and what it would cost you under this new plan. I'd like to have something to compare, apples to apples. That way, because I'm looking at, a lot of this and it's, this much and then per this. You said that you're going down on your plan review fees, but like one of them, I noticed an overtime inspection.
Which never happens.
Yeah,
I give those guys those inspections. I mean,
And then,
you'd
like,
have to schedule me for a Saturday for me to want to charge
What is
that.
Culver's currently right now? Aren't they like $25 for a permit?
65.
65?
Yeah.
But y'all don't inspect for Culver's, does it?
We sell
Public
it.
Works go out and determine?
We process the application, we sell it, they send us back the sizing and give all that information to them.
I just like to see something to compare to, because looking at all these numbers, and I don't want this to turn into another closed polling locations like we did, and then it became our problem because we jump into this, then there's gonna be, well, the council did it. So I'm kind of like James, we started discussing about taking over, and then this jumped out, and then I don't want to relive that polling location crap, because I want to make sure we inform before we make these choices and decisions. That's just my thing.
You got a good memory, Mr. Montran. Councilman.
A lot of phone calls to remind you.
Councilman Montran yields back. Councilman Napier on discussion.
Chad, I do agree with you tonight. I do. Well, we're gonna start. I mean, it's gonna be an ongoing thing now. But look, so Jacob, I could, as everybody could tell, my friend over there was very, very upset.
Passionate.
Very much. And I think one of the reasons, and he asked it, was he's a contractor by trade. So am I. We know that there were some council members, and that's all of our jobs. We can't all sit in. But it would have been nice if you would have reached out, you were putting this together for us to pass, to go. You said you talked to some contractors. You got a couple of them sitting here. I never got a call. He never got a call.
I waited till the conversation came to me. I really
no.
didn't reach out.
I'd
I don't.
appreciate it if you wait till I finish, and
I'm
then
sorry.
I'll listen to you. Thank you. But so, a lot of, look, I'm all for, I think we should be protecting the public, for sure. You know, contractors that come in, like Mr. Fox said, and that's my big thing. I'm licensed, I'm insured, so is James. There's a lot of them that get permits that aren't, and they do shabby work. We should be protecting that, in my opinion, you know. But, you know, some of this stuff, you know, so if I decide to change a dishwasher in my house.
That has not. As far as like I was explaining, the inspection on the new construction, it's just to add another nickel in there for a little bit more oversight for the amount of fixtures that have to be checked out.
I don't want you to answer every little thing I ask, but just keep in mind, and you can. But like what Chad said is that, you know, for us, so you're saying no. I mean, so this is what we're looking at. So whoever helped you put it together, council, administration, whoever, we need to see better, because you know what? Your name's not on here. The administration's name's not on here. It's us. And like Chad said, we already caught a backlash in over something we did, trusting somebody, and it came back to bite us. So I agree. I think, you know, we need to put this better together. You know, because I got a bunch, I would imagine everybody got calls on this. Contractors that live and work here, that want to do their job and do it right, that's the ones we want to keep here, and that's the ones we want to work with, you know, to make Iberia Parish a good place. With all the calls that came in, that's got to tell you something, that there's got to be something better we can present. And that's what I'm going to ask you, and hopefully the council will all agree to maybe take a step back, and let's, whoever has input, and let's get this better. I'm not going to support it like it is.
To say back, I didn't get any help in generating this. Whenever they asked for a meeting, it was after the initial proposal, and they, you know, a couple people wanted to hear it out. You know, they reached out to me. I said, yeah, sure. My door has been opening. I love doing math. I want people to come, and I apologize that this is not something people are comfortable in seeing, you know, but this has been done for 60 years, 5 minutes down the road, you know, and almost just like this, you know, and it's identical today. I didn't have any council members help me with generating that, any administration, nothing. Yeah, I knew it was going to go over like a lead balloon, but I was trying to not reinvent the wheel, do what I've been doing with the same company for the last people, and if it works in these rural, and if it works in Krotz Springs and Cankton and, you know, all these other little small towns, and I didn't see it being a problem here, you know, and I've spoken with the mayors in the parish, and, you know, everybody appreciates what we're trying to do and bring a better service to the public, and I think we're trying to expedite that process. You know, I cut my elbows in planning and zoning and permitting, and I'm not trying to sell y'all short, and really I just tried to get us to adopt a fee schedule that is commonly used to ensure that we had not only the funding for oversight, but, you know, for obvious reasons of paying for what we need to pay for.
Well, look, I appreciate, I know you put a lot of hard work in it and all that. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to beat you down, not like that.
Oh, that's all right.
Coming from me, I'm just asking that we represent the public, all 14 of us here. You know, well, 15 and Larry. So, you know, we want to, when we get complaints, something, you say we've been doing it 5 minutes down the road, but, I mean, something's out there that a lot of these contractors are, and maybe homeowners or whoever's, there's a problem somewhere, and let's work together to try to figure it out. I'm just, tonight, I can't move forward with it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jacob, for all your work.
Thank you.
Well, if we got anything positive out of tonight, Councilman Napier's the problem solver. I appreciate that, Councilman. Anyone
Tell
else?
my wife that. Yeah, I am stunned.
Councilman Landry on discussion.
I would like to speak tonight, but I would like to go after all the whippings over.
I'm sorry, Councilman Landry, go ahead.
All right, well, we talked about a number of things here, so I kept making notes. We're talking about.
Hold on 1 second, Councilman Landry. You press your button on your mic, please. Is it?
All right, we talked about a number of things tonight, and, we had John Raines, we had Sarah Gary, and we had Reed Boudreau. And all three of those said that the rates were too low and we needed to go up. And you're correct, Warren, we were 300,000 short way back over there. But James, you were telling me the story about when you went to a house and they had one of those other inspectors in there, and he did not do a good job. That's why I'm all for bringing this and getting a couple inspectors and beefing up that department in there. We're not going to be any higher than anybody else. And we talked about 100,000, square foot building that we're going to be higher. Well, I don't think it's 300,000 to build that 100,000 square, but we're so cheap on sales tax. It's 1.7, but let's just go even numbers of 1%. It's a $3,000 savings on $300,000 on sales tax. And then you compare us to St. Martinville, they're at 100 mills and we're only at 74. I mean, if you build in Iberia Parish, pay the same building charges that we're going to have here, you are going to save money the rest of your life with that building. Iberia Parish is cheaper to build in. I know none of these contractors want to face it, but it's just like all the people out there that didn't want to pass a road tax, now they're complaining about their front-end alignment. That sales tax for roads would have been a tax that nobody ever paid except businesses, and the businesses want it. I think it's time that we quit being scared to increase something that we need. I think we need to bring in inspectors. Right now, you have 3 people in the department. An individual that answers the phone and works the front glass. You have a FEMA water person that does that, and you got Jacob. I mean, we need to put people in those departments so they can do the job right. The people that we send the notes to go inspect these houses, they leave Abbeville with 5 or 6 things to inspect. They'll drive right by a building that's being built, and they're not stopping because it ain't on their list. When we have people in-house, and maybe they could work with Public Works to say, hey, there's something going on over here, y'all could go see. I know an individual that's in the inspection department, and he gets calls all the time. And I think all these rates are going to be fair, and I think it's time that we quit worrying about somebody complaining. And I did get a phone call. I want y'all to know. I got one, And after I started talking about the sales tax and how cheap we are, he kind of came over. He said, well, I understand. And I said, we can count, like Mr. Fox says, on the citizens to go ahead and be the good contractors. I have some neighbors, I would not want them to hire the people to fix their place because I would worry about my place burning down. But I think it's time that we show that we're going to do the right thing, that we don't run from all these people. That's just my opinion, and I'm going to support these changes, but I would like to come back and readdress maybe the people would have to be licensed and insured. But I don't think it's a time to table or to delete.
Councilman Landry, I want to address you on that. There's a lot of times where you and I agree and we disagree, and that's the part of function of government. I think at some point in time you have to measure this, and at this time you have nothing to measure. You're just taking in an in-house inspection right now, department. Let him get settled. I'm not disagreeing. I mean, we both agreed that we felt that the reason in-house inspection might have been a cost savings measure, depending on how you turn it, but more or less it was effective. When our ordinances or our laws change, Our guys in-house know. They know what they're looking for. We don't depend on someone outside the parish who doesn't keep up with this memo. You are right. I've gotten the calls that, hey, listen, it's after 3 o'clock, they're not gonna come out. I think that will improve. I think we'll be able to have a better response time. And I do understand it may cost us a little more down the road, but at some point in time, you have to have compare and contrast. You gotta compare it to something. You can't just say, well, we got him in-house, now we gotta go and jack up the price because we gotta fund him. Who knows? He may be self-sufficient just getting into there. I mean, I know the city does a pretty good job. He's shaking his head. No, but how can you tell me without giving you an opportunity to run the department, have those changes, those plan reviews, collect that money, keep the money here? How do you know without at least giving some trial of doing it? How do you know?
Well, because we're running in the red. I mean, the city's running in the red.
I don't disagree with you.
And just to say, you know, we got me here and then we lost someone. So we're actually like in the green right now as far as like what the department's costing us. And I don't disagree as far as needing some more discussion on it. I appreciate people being and wanting to be involved and wanting to learn about it. And just to say, I think the state makes us do these things, and we have a permit fee schedule that is trying to reflect what we have to do. And, you know, we
Now, look, Jacob, let me just give you some self-criticism here, okay? I know you mentioned Broussard and Lafayette and all of these other towns. Welcome to Iberia Parish. That's all I want to hear about is because everybody's unique. We're going to have our own issues, just like other parishes have their own issues. You can see it. You're going to leave with a little butt whipping today, but we're going to get back on track tomorrow, and it's a better day. Look, Mr. Landry is very passionate what he said. Mr. Trahan is. Do I agree with both of them? They both make valid points, but I'm here to tell you, my first 1 or 2 years here, nobody screamed in this chamber more than I did. And it took me some time to realize that government it doesn't work like the private sector, and it won't, okay? And I know that sometimes as many of these departments we want to be self-sufficient and make money, government just isn't in the business of making money. It's to provide a service. And sometimes I'm okay with taking a lick in these departments because I know, you know, we just... Things are going to slow down. Things are going to pick up. With the uncertainty in the world today, as long as I got somebody good and these contractors can trust you, I think that's where the development happens. I mean, we're not expecting to get rich off the department. We know that. If we can turn a little revenue, I'm okay with it. But at the end of the day, the real revenue becomes in our millages when these houses are built or when these businesses established. That's where the tax base is. But we got to get them there, and we got to have trust out there that what we're doing is not reversing what we did years ago, and I don't think we have. We are saving money in the department compared to what it was. You just heard $300,000 deficit. We've cut into that. We used to streamline meetings where 4 or 5 hours here. We may hit that tonight, but you know, sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot, but there's always tomorrow we can get better at what we do. So, Mr. Landry, I see you getting red in the face over there. I can tell the passion.
Well, if you called me, I'll go back to say, you're talking about tabling and giving it some time.
Sure.
But when you've had 3 past, highly qualified directors that told all of us that you need to go up, you need to go up, you need to go up, I think that's telling you right there. You got the opportunity at hand. You go ahead, we get out the red, we bring in the people that we need, and as all these houses are coming on board, they're being self-sufficient. They're gonna pay a little bit more in fees, but the sales tax in Iberia Parish is a lot cheaper, and the millages that we're never gonna go up on, we're just gonna max them, are gonna save those people hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year, and they're gonna say, thank you for Jacob doing this for me, so I got a nice building, and I'm saving all this money from Iberia Parish.
Mr. Landry, I always had respect for you, persistent.
We would have the same building, people have the same building, whether fees go up or not. They got the same building they're gonna build, number one. Number two, as far as for public works policing this, we can't fill cabs or excavators, dump trucks, and tractors with what we got, and you want these people to go police on building permits?
All right.
I didn't say police, what I said,
All right,
if they
guys,
see a
let's-
building,
What a
they
far-fetched,
could call
man.
it
We
in.
got it, guys. All right, Mr. Landry, you were finished, right?
I'll hold them.
Okay, Mr. Landry yields back. Anyone else on, I think, Mr. Pollard, you had something, right? Councilman Pollard, we got you.
Kind of like Paul. I'm not big on the tax and everything, but my thing is, you know, we hear people saying they're gonna Lafayette Parish, they going to Vermillion Parish. The taxes, I mean, not the taxes, but the cost for these contractors is up there. We way down here. I guess we just gonna just kick the can down the road and stay down here forever, you know? When are we gonna get up? When, you know, I mean, these people, I mean, this guy here, he just told us, I understand this man, the contract, and saying that the price went up, you know, but everything's going up. Gas in Lafayette, like he said, $4.89 a gallon. Over here is $4.72. You think they're coming from Lafayette to buy it here? Well, I'm sorry.
He's talking diesel.
I'm sorry, diesel, you know? Yeah, it just came down to, you know? But anyway, I'm done.
Thank you for that, Mr. Pollard. Appreciate that, Councilman. Anyone else? Councilman Olivier.
You know, it's no secret that we need to go up on fees in planning and zoning and these permits. I can see there's a lot of questions still hasn't been answered, you know, for this council here. Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a motion to table this without a date until we can get more answers.
Would you be okay with me just holding that for a second, just to
That's
finish the
fine,
discussion,
yeah.
and then
Right, yeah.
we'll go to that. I'll hold the floor for you.
Yeah.
Councilman Olivier yields back. Councilwoman Broussard.
Just real quick, I mean, I understand that y'all have a lot of questions that y'all still need answered, but I'm kind of with Tommy and Paul. I mean, have y'all driven around Lafayette Parish? Have y'all seen the new house construction? It is blowing up. I mean, people are not building in Iberia Parish because of our fees or because of our property taxes or because of our sales taxes. That is not our problem. And to say that we shouldn't go up on our permit fees or these fees so that we get houses in, I think that's the wrong way of thinking. They are building in those more expensive places. And, you know, until we can start offering the citizens the services that they expect, which this is one of them, then we're still going to be, like Tommy says, I mean, we're just kicking the can down the road. But, I mean, I respect the fact that there's a lot more discussion and questions that need to be answered,
Well,
so
thank you for that. Councilwoman, you finished?
I'm done.
Councilwoman Broussard yields back. Councilman Marjoram.
I just got a quick comment from what Ms. Broussard said. In reality, it sounds great, but in the same instance, Paul mentioned it about being in the red, Jacob mentioned about being in the red, and what it sounds like to the general public is you going up on the fees to pay salaries. That's the same reason the road tax didn't pass, same reason the levy thing didn't pass, because they all thought it was gonna pay salaries. It's not being sold that way, so until the people start trusting the government, nothing's gonna change. Because, I mean, I listened to Paul, and what I got from him was, we need the money to pay people to do the job. And that's what steers the people away from wanting to do business in Iberia. That, like, good old boy politics.
Hold on, Mr. Landry.
You gotta hire people.
Mr. Landry.
I agree with that, but it's the way your sales pitch was, Paul. I mean, you selling it to the people that you need the
Gentlemen.
money to hire people. I mean, people don't trust the government. That's what it boils down to.
Didn't we just hire more
Mr.
people in the drainage for Eugene? Because we ain't got nobody doing it. Okay, it's the same thing, whatever department you go to. We're short all over.
Mr. Landry. I understand. Let's keep regular order here. Councilman Marjoram, will you finish?
Totally agree with
Councilman Louis.
I can totally agree with the permit fees. I have no problem with the fees that we're looking at right now. Like Chad said, I want to make sure we, as a council, is comfortable voting on this resolution tonight. I can support this resolution tonight, but I want to make sure all of you are comfortable voting on this resolution tonight. And I think a lot of us are not, because we still got answers to questions we need answered on this resolution. So I really would like to table this.
Okay, Councilman Olivier has a motion to table. Is there a second?
I want
have a second by
an
Council-
open date on the table. I don't want to put a time frame when to bring it back.
Okay,
We'll
I have
bring
a
it back when
second
you're
by
ready.
Councilman Napier. Councilman Olivier, we have your request at a table. Would you like to start the discussion on the table?
Yes, that's fine.
You waiving discussion
I'll
on the
waive the
table?
discussion on the
Councilman Napier was the second on the discussion on the table? Any discussion on the table, members?
Yeah, I got to Warren, I'm not sure your question was ever answered about, can we do it in-house without doing the fee increases? Is that possible, or do we just leave it as it is? Or do we go to
Well,
in-house inspection without the fee increases?
Well, no,
For the moment.
you've already transitioned
answer
into
that,
that. That's why I was
To
saying.
answer that, yes, we can
if-
operate.
If there was no definite decision tonight, we still have in-house inspections. We're still moving.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm,
Okay, I just want to sure.
Mr. Shealy, come on at it.
Well, let me tell you, what some of you may not understand is, I don't like it when y'all get undue criticism. And y'all are getting undue criticism about inspections. I just want to make sure that the public understands. I want to address something Mr. Fox said. You have no choice. I'm not addressing the fees. I'm just addressing the fact that the state of Louisiana, after Katrina, passed a statute that says you will adopt the following codes. Not only that, they said you will enforce the following codes, and we're not going to pay you to do it. You're going to have to do it yourself. So that's the position you're in. And to address Mr. Fox's comment about the fact that we ought to depend upon homeowners and licensed contractors, the statute doesn't allow that. The case law is very clear. You have to have an independent inspector, whether you do it in-house or out-of-house, doesn't matter. But I just want it clear that you are simply doing what the state has told you to do without sending you any money to do it.
And Mr. Fox, I know you're putting up your hand. I'm bonded down. I can't call on you because we're in a public session. Earlier, a councilman yielded to you. That's why you were given that time. So I'm not ignoring you. I don't want you to think that's happening. So I apologize, sir. Okay, so we have a substitute motion to table without a date, indefinite, right? Okay. Councilman Olivier, and a second by, was it Councilman Napier to table? Any other comments? Hearing none. Roll call members, those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. All those in the affirmative, put your hand up. I have those in favor, Councilman Pollard, Councilman Broussard, Councilman Rossini, Councilman Napier, Councilman Goshenson, Councilwoman Broussard, Councilman Trahan, Marty Trahan, Councilman Mathurin, and Councilman Olivier, and Councilman Brown. Those opposed to tabling, Councilwoman Brown, Councilman Paul Landry, Councilman James Strahan. Those in the affirmative, how many do we have? We have 10 in the affirmative and 3 opposed. That motion to table passes. Moving on to summary number 49, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
A resolution appointing one member to the Fire Protection District Number 1 Board for a 4-year term to fill a vacancy created by the expiration of term of Mr. Joey Duran, whose term expires June 2nd, 2022. Appointment applications received from Mr. Joey Duran and Mr. Kerry Romero. Note, this was tabled from the March 23rd, 2022 Iberia Parish Council meeting.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Mathurin. Do I have a second?
Second.
I gotta open it. Second by Councilwoman Broussard. Any discussion, members? Hearing none, there'll be a record vote on your pads. Members, are you through voting? Record your vote, members. The clerk will record the roll. You gotta vote on your pad, members. Make sure it's your pad with your district number. Your pad, James. We still have to appoint one, and then the other one will be by default. Are you through voting, members? Tommy, you got Mr. Brown's? Yeah, one will be a default once this is done. Thank you, Councilman. Pass that. Who's 12? That's Lady Brown. Huh? Just in case it don't pass. You 12, huh? Or 11? No, you 12, huh? We'll keep this here just in case it don't pass. All right. No, just in case there was two of them. All right, District 1, Romero. District 3, Duran. District 5, Duran. District 4, Duran. District 6, Duran. District 7, Duran. District 9, Duran. District 8, with an exclamation. Duran with an exclamation. District 10, Duran. District 12, Duran. District 13, Duran. District 14, Duran. 12 in favor for Duran and 1 for Romero. Duran wins. Congratulations, Mr. Duran. Moving on to summary number 50, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
A resolution appointing one member to the Fire Protection District Number 1 Board for a 4-year term to fill a vacancy created by the expiration of term for Mr. Kerry Romero, whose term expires June 12, 2022. Appointment applications received from Mr. Joey Duran and Mr. Kerry Romero.
Do note, members, that Mr. Duran was elected on summary 49. By default, Mr. Kevin Romero will be elected. I'll need a motion. I have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard. Second by Councilman Mathurin. Any discussion, members? Here. Hearing no discussion, roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, hear no opposition. The ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Romero. Moving on to summary number 64, introduced by the parish president. Madam Clerk.
A resolution amending the 2022 Economic Development District Number 1 fund budget in the amount of $179,097 for the following project carryovers. 1, Highway 675 roundabout in the amount of $1,132. Number 2, sewer improvements in the amount of $59,088. Number 3, ARA Access Road in the amount of negative $272,925. And 4, IE to capital outlay match in the amount of $37,958.
Do we have a motion? Have a motion by Councilman Landry. Second by Councilman Olivier. Councilman Landry in discussion. Councilman Olivier? Any discussion, members, on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. I think we did summary 65, right?
No, we didn't do 65.
Okay. Summary number 65, introduced by Warren P. Goshenson, Jr., District 5. Madam Clerk.
A resolution setting the polling place location for Iberia Parish, District 5, Precinct 7, which precinct has been created for voter convenience by ordinance number 2022-045183.
Do I have a motion? Have a motion by Councilman Paul Landry. Second by Councilman Olivier. Councilman Landry in discussion. Councilman Olivier. Any discussion on the main motion, members? Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 66, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the payment of travel expenses for members of the Iberia Parish Council to attend the 2022 Police Jury Association of Louisiana Legislative Day to be held in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on May 4th, 2022 at an estimated cost of $351 per person, all to be funded from the 2022 General Fund Budget Legislative Travel Account.
I need a motion to suspend the rules. Have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard. Second by Councilman Olivier. Councilwoman Broussard.
I don't think we should move forward with it. I think we spent all the money in our travel budget.
This is to suspend the rules. Did you want to talk about suspending the rules? Hearing none, Councilman Olivier on discussion? Hearing none, any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, members, this is just to suspend the rules. Roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Now, on to summary 66. I'll need a motion. A motion by Councilwoman Broussard, second by Councilman Landry. Councilwoman Broussard on discussion.
I believe we've depleted our travel allowance, so I don't think there's any money left to pay for this.
Let's get a clarification on that. Is Ms. Segura here tonight? Ms. Segura, if you can step to the podium and tell us that beautiful balance. I'm sure we have $351 in there, Ms. Segura. Well, you're right.
So the original appropriation was 3,000, and the resolution that was adopted earlier this year, I apologize, I guess it's the, a NACO trip.
Okay.
Approved a specified number of members to attend, registration only, I believe. I had calculated it's about $2,000, so I penciled in $800 left, so.
Okay, so now that we got the verdict, who had the discussion on the floor? Was it Councilwoman? Councilwoman, we got about $800. No, I was answering your question. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Councilwoman Broussard yields back.
After discussion, I'll move to delete.
Okay. Councilman Olivier on discussion?
At least a registration fee for those members that want to go to the legislative conference. I think it's important. Of course, you know, we're working with a lot of excess funding with the state of Louisiana right now. So we need to show our face over there and say that, look, you know, New Iberia is still here.
Okay.
Okay?
Do we have a show of hands of who's interested in going? Okay, so I think we may exceed the $800.
Registration is 95.
Ooh, well, we may have a shot, y'all. Okay, so, right, I think this was yeah. Let's, Councilman, did you want to finish first and then let's get it? Okay.
Registration
Okay.
fees in my motion, yeah.
Councilman Eugene yields back. Anyone else on discussion? Councilman Napier.
The 351, I think, includes maybe a hotel, meals, all that, right?
Your mic, sir.
I don't control it.
Okay, we're good. Sorry about that.
So, yeah, doesn't it, Brenda, if you
It'll
can?
be for the travel.
That's
also.
for everything,
Yes.
right? So the registration is just $95. So you could almost pay for 8 people, if I'm not mistaken. So, but, so is that what we want to do, y'all? We want to just get it, let's spend it all, huh? Let's get it to where there's nothing left in it. Or if you want to go, pay the $95.
Councilman Napier, were you trying to save money for the end of the year Christmas party? Is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, in case, Eugene might have another spot to go.
Okay,
Maybe?
were you finished, Councilman?
Yeah.
Councilman Broussard.
I just thought we were gonna take the balance of whatever was left in the budget, divided by however many we're gonna decide to go, and that's what it was gonna be. So
I think there will be an amendment
Is
to it
that-
to bring it down.
Okay.
That's a good gesture. Councilman Broussard, were you finished?
Done.
Anyone else on discussion?
When is this?
Okay, Councilwoman Broussard wants to have a substitute motion on the floor.
I move to delete.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to delete by Councilwoman Broussard, second by Councilman Napier. Is there any discussion on the deletion? Councilman Landry on the deletion.
I'm not going to support it because I believe we could come up with a better substitute motion, even
Okay.
if it's that the ones that want to go, you pay the $95. You know, we rode with someone the first year. and
Oh, wait a minute.
They almost got run over by a bus.
I had a bus driver
Come on,
with me.
gentlemen.
But I just think we got a lot out of it, and
We did.
We got some good contacts and things like that, and you know, some good meetings, and so I'm going to vote against the deletion just so that if any of us want to go, we can still put up the 95 ourselves out of our pocket.
Oh, no, I still agree with that.
Deleting it would not
No, it
prevent
wouldn't.
us from
Right.
paying our own $95 to go.
But we don't have to give a resolution for the clerks and them to know to take the money to be able to send it to. We got to let them know by April 25th.
I think we just have to register ourselves or tell the clerks we want to go, but
I would have the clerk send it, and we just give them the money.
So what you're saying is send a resolution without an appropriations and y'all would take care of the tab?
And the one that wants to go pays it himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Councilman Landry, were you
What-
finished? Hold on one second. It's the deletion right now. Councilman
I'll
Landry
modify
yields
my
back.
motion. I'll modify my substitute.
Okay, Councilwoman Broussard on her deletion.
I'll modify it to delete that we pay for any of it.
So you want to amend the language only to support the resolution without
That powers government,
appropriations?
yeah, right.
Okay. All right, so is that okay with Councilman Landry, the substitute motion to amend the language only to pass the resolution without appropriations?
And we would bring our money before April 25th so that the clerk could register us.
Okay? Now that we changed, is there any discussion on the motion to amend the language?
Eugene.
Councilman Olivier?
We do have a balance in our travel allowance, and that's what the money's there is for. I mean, at one time it was $30,000. We reduced it to 10, now it's only $3,000 a year. So, I mean, the $95 is just a gesture. We're gonna send somebody over there representing Iberia Parish, and that's what we're doing. I'm not gonna support that substitute motion. I really think that, you know, we as a parish can afford to pay our registration fees to go to a conference. It's just simple as that, you know.
Okay, Councilman Olivier yields back. Anyone else on the motion to amend? Hearing none. Roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Give me the hands. In favor, I have Councilman Broussard, Councilman Paul Landry, Councilman Scott Rossini, Councilman Brian Napier, Councilwoman Broussard. Those opposed, Councilwoman Brown, Councilman Brown, Councilman Pollard, Councilman Goshenson, Councilman James Strong, Councilman Marty Strong, and Councilman Olivier. Somebody did not vote. Who we missing? You?
You didn't.
No, I voted. I said my name. Oh, which way were you?
Second round, yeah.
Were you for or against it?
Against the lead.
Okay, so we have 5 in favor and 8 against. That motion to amend fails. Back to the main motion.
I'd like to put a substitute motion on the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Olivier on a substitute motion. State your motion, sir.
Before I do, how many members want to go to the conference? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So looking at 5.
He said how many want to go?
6, well, roughly $600. I think we should pay the registration fee for those members that wants to go to the conference only.
So you want to amend the motion to,
Give them each $20.
how much was registration?
Give them each, those that
So
wanna-
amend the registration for 6 people for $95, correct?
Correct, yes.
Do I have a second on that motion? Councilman Brown on the second. All right, so we have a motion to amend. Do we have any discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, roll call, members. Those in favor? Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Raise your hands, please. In the affirmative, I have Councilwoman Brown, Councilman Brown, Councilman Pollard, Councilman Goshenson, Councilman Trahan, James Strong, Councilman Marty Trahan, Councilman Mathurin, and Councilman Olivier. Those opposed, give me hands. Councilman Broussard, Councilman Paul Landry, Councilman Scott Rossini, Councilman Napier, Councilwoman Broussard.
You have to, what's your vote?
Warren, for the record, how did you vote?
I voted yea. I believe I said my
You
name.
voted yea?
To spend that money?
To spend that money.
It's as easy as getting a permit. Those in favor is 8. Those opposed is 5. That motion to amend carries.
Hey, Brian, you ever got this coffee thing?
Did I what?
Coffee things that you like coffee.
Okay, next is ordinances introduced for publication. I'm just gonna have the clerk,
Oh, please don't.
if I have a motion on the floor to dispense the reading of the publication.
Dispense the reading of the publication.
Councilwoman Broussard moves to dispense the reading of the publication. Do I have a second? I have a second by Councilman Landry. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. I need a motion to adjourn. Okay. I have a motion by Councilman Pollard, second by Councilwoman Broussard. Roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. We now adjourn.